So hello and welcome to It's Never Too Late, the podcast where we explore the inspiring journeys of women who have embraced change, achieved remarkable things and followed their dreams in midlife and beyond. I'm Clare Roberts-Molloy, Midlife Mindset Coach, and in each episode, I'll be speaking with women who prove that age is just a number and it's never too late to chase your goals. Today, I'm joined by the marvellous Catherine Hyde, the founder of HooperHyde, a boutique legal advice business she launched just after she turned 40. In 2022, Catherine was named one of the Telegraph and NatWest's 100 female entrepreneurs to watch. And at 44 years young, she feels like she's just getting started. And her story is a testament to the idea that it's never too late to chase your dreams and make a difference. So today we'll be talking about what Catherine has achieved so far, how her outlook on life has changed since she's turned 40, and any advice she has for you, the listeners, who feel it might be too late for you to pursue your dreams. So let's dive straight in. So welcome, Catherine. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm feeling fabulous today, thank you.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Good. So I've just given a really brief summary of you, sort of, the typical professional bio, but can you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit more about you and what you've been doing since you turned 40?
Gosh, what have I been doing since I've turned 40? So I'm Catherine. I am 44 years young and I am proud of that fact. I run my own law firm. I've got 2 kids, a husband, a dog, 2 cats, 2 gerbils. Like, it's absolute madness in our house. I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest with you. That's me. I mean, I can tell you about what I love to do in my spare time, which is anything that slows the pace is what I would describe it as. So, work life is so frenetic and so full on that anything that kind of, yoga, reading, going out for nice long walks in the countryside, definitely stuff that sort of just brings me back into the room, I guess. Because I guess when you're running a business, you're constantly thinking forwards. And actually, sometimes it's important to kind of pause and be present, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I think that's really important. And I've been talking quite a lot to people about that very concept.
Really?
Recently. I call it like grounding, going back to ground. And you sound like me. We've both got kids, haven't we? We've got kids who've got different needs.
Yeah.
We've got pets, we've got the halves, we've got busy businesses. And it is taking that time to step back and go back to ground again. And I was having a conversation yesterday online with someone, and we were discussing how we have these habits that we form that sort of underpin our health and well-being, but also they're the first things to go when we get really
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who even am I in that long list? Yeah, in that long list of things that need to be done, my needs are basically at the bottom, sometimes just fall off the list completely, to be fair. Yeah. And how do you balance that? Being a business owner and a mum and everything else, how do you find that balance? I think there's a couple of things that I do. One of the things is I do have weekly therapy, and I've had therapy on and off for years. And sometimes it's because there's a specific need that I need help with. And sometimes it's just because actually it's quite a nice space to just offload every now and then. And to be honest with you, I think one of the reasons I started the business was because I had young children and I wanted the flexibility to be able to say, do you know what? Not today. So I do just pick and choose. I go, do you know what? I'm really tired this week. So I'm going to have a slower pace. I'll start at 10. I'll finish at 2. I'll do the school run every single day, because my husband and I share it because he's self-employed as well. And I just choose. And I think that was one of the key things for me, was being able to choose what I did with my time in any given moment. I think when you have kids, or, even if you don't, actually someone else dictating your time and therefore your need in terms of your energy levels, I wasn't here for it, to be honest with you. You're expected to bring your A game constantly when you're in an employed role generally, whereas actually I just get to say, today I want to do something different. I'm going to go for a walk with the dog for an hour and a half, or I'm going to go and have a breakfast with my husband, or I'm going to go and do yoga this evening. And I think that the way I balance it is a little bit, I suppose, sporadic. But the very fact of being able to be flexible means that I can do it as and when I choose.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's knowing when, as you say, having that flexibility to know when all my energy is dipping here. I need to take action. And I think when I'm speaking to lots of women, that flexibility and freedom often is the overriding reason for starting their own business. Or did you have any other reasons alongside that?
It was mainly,
pandemic, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I don't really know why. So I'd always had an idea that I wanted to run my own business, but it was a very long time in the making. I was employed as a legal secretary, paralegal, trainee solicitor for a really long time before I took the plunge. And I actually went self-employed first, just as a consultant solicitor under another brand, thinking that would kind of scratch the itch that I needed in terms of the flexibility and autonomy. But I think, I don't know, I just got to a point where I thought, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And if it fails, it fails. And at least I can say I tried, rather than wondering what if. It was always a case of, you've just got to take one step in front of the other. Just take the next best step. And if it leads you down the path of owning your own business, then so be it. And if actually there's something else that you're meant to be doing, then it will lead you that way too. So yeah, I think it was mostly because of having small children and just being able to say, not today, thanks. Yeah. I don't have the energy for it. My parents were ill. So my mum passed away in 2015. So I'd already sort of been going through that grieving process. My dad became ill in the December of 2020. Yeah, because when was lockdown? When was the pandemic?
The first lockdown was towards the end of March 2020.
Yes. Yeah. So it would have been the Christmas before that then. So Christmas 2019. Gosh, it's been nearly 5 years. And I think I was just like, I can't, because I was self-employed, but I was doing a lot of project work for clients. So I was still sort of pseudo-employed. And obviously my dad passed away in the early January before the pandemic. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't be beholden to someone else's time and someone else's needs. It's time to step back and actually prioritize me and my family in this crazy kind of, I couldn't equate this role that I was playing as a solicitor with all of the demands I had on my personal life.
Yeah.
So it sort of led me down that way of going, do you know what? Enough's enough. I've got to do something different, I guess.
Yeah. And I think we often find ourselves, and probably more so women, where you find yourself with the parents who need support and the young family. And as you're saying, in the middle of that is you, but you're also balancing the career and all the other pressures on you. Yeah. And sometimes something has to give. But you said you've always had this urge to run your own business, and it was also a now and never.
Yeah, it was.
Do you think if life hadn't come along and sort of, because the universe has a funny way of doing it, doesn't it? It goes, you said you're going to do this. You haven't done it yet. So let me throw all these things at you until you wake up and take that step.
Yeah.
So do you think that it was that catalyst at the time of everything else going on that you went, that's it. Now I've got to do that.
Yeah, I don't recall making a conscious decision in that way, but the circumstances pushed me that way. And I knew that, my parents were quite young when they passed away. And I just subconsciously, I think, was like, life's too short. Do the thing that you said you've been doing all along. And let's just see what happens. So I don't know if you know much about law firms, but you have to be SRA regulated to do certain types of work. And I kind of just went, right, well, I'll get the PI quote, so professional indemnity quote. And if I get that and that's okay, then I'll do the next thing and I'll apply to the SRA. So I got the quote. And then I was like, okay, I'll apply to the SRA. submitted my application. And whilst the application was going through, I then kind of came across this third-party provider that my business sits on instead of me having to be SRA regulated. I won't bore you with the details. But it was almost as if I was like, right, just take the next best step and see what happens. Because if this is for you, it will happen. And if it's not, there'll be something else. Yeah. So it wasn't even like I went, right, I have this grand plan. I've got a 5-year plan ahead of me. You know, this is what I'm going to do. It's definitely going to happen. I just went, right, just take the next best step and see where you end up, really.
I love that. And I was chatting on a previous episode and about something really similar, about taking that next step or just wondering what could be possible, and approaching it with curiosity.
Yeah.
And I was speaking on a previous episode to Loretta Milan, and she said, open the door to curiosity.
Yeah, I love that.
See what's on the other side of it. You don't necessarily have to step through.
No.
But you can.
Yeah. You can choose.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? You get to choose.
Yeah.
Okay, you might go that way and think, actually, this route's not for me. I'm going to go back this way now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? There are a lot of people, and there might be a lot of listeners out there who get so overwhelmed by the idea of doing something, because if you say to someone, I'm going to go and start a law firm, I mean, it just seems like this huge thing. It's not just a business, it's a law firm, you know, and everything else that comes alongside that. But as you say, you have to sometimes look at the pebble in front of you rather than the mountain ahead.
Yes, so true.
And that's the way forward. So that's what I always try and say to some of my clients and the people I work with. It's what's possible. If you get curious, what is possible, and then let's work out the steps to get there.
Exactly.
Well done. I mean, amazing. Amazing.
I'm still winging it.
You're still winging it, but we do. And that's the other thing. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
We just make progress, don't we? And you know, it's quite cliche, but I love that whole thing around progress, not perfection.
Yes.
And evolving, because often what we think we want evolves or isn't actually what we want. It's something different, and not being afraid to evolve as we go through that path of curiosity.
Yes, so true. Yeah.
So what have you found then, all these years in, a couple of years into HooperHyde? What has been the learning for you?
Oh my gosh, so much. I was so naive to how hard it is to run a business, let alone grow one. All the different directions that you are pulled in, all the different hats you have to wear when you're first starting out, you know. So there was a few sensible decisions I made at the beginning, which was to get an accountant straight away, and one that understood law firms and understood growth. So that was one of the key things I did. But I've made so many mistakes. You know, I've thrown money at marketing campaigns that haven't worked. I've bought courses that didn't make any difference. You know, there's so many things that I've learned, and I've learned about myself as well. And I'm still learning about myself. You know, I thought I was really confident, and there's so many things I am confident in, but there's so many things that actually I'm not very confident in. And I do have those moments where I doubt myself and my abilities, and, oh, what are you doing? Why do you think you can do this? This is too hard, you know, all that sort of thing. So I think my biggest learning is to go with the highs and the lows, to learn to kind of ride the waves of the ebbs and flows. Sometimes you're going to be loving it. Sometimes it's going to be the worst decision you've ever made. You know, you've just got to roll with it, and generally it will pass. And trust your instincts as well. Actually, that was a big one for me. Yeah. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. You don't necessarily have to have a conscious reason for it. It's just there's something about the situation that you find yourself in that's giving you a vibration or the ick or whatever you want to call it. So trust that feeling, because I've ignored it a couple of times and to my detriment.
Yeah. And I think you're right. And we know, don't we? We feel it in our sort of, in our gut. And that term, the ick, was something I came across very, very recently. And there was someone was talking about it in relation to relationships. And at what point, you know, you feel that this person's the right person, and then suddenly they do something that gives you the ick. And I thought, oh, I knew exactly what they meant. I'd never come across it. But when you say it in terms of people you meet, you do get that, don't you?
You do, yeah.
Get that. And we all experience people very, very differently to to our colleagues and our friends and family. But yeah, so trusting your gut is really, really important.
Yeah. And you're not for everyone, right? You're not for everyone and everyone's not for you. And that's okay.
That's okay.
You know, and you will find the people that you're meant to be surrounded by, that you're meant to be working with, and it will all work as it's meant to, as long as you allow that to unfold. If you fight against it, it often doesn't work and you feel dissatisfied.
Exactly. And also your ego gets really bruised really quickly because we all have an ego, even if you say we don't. Everyone has a level of ego. And I remember once I had an experience online and I was really quite devastated by it. And I was like, but why? And my daughter at the time, she would have been about 14, and she went, Mummy, you can't be for everyone, and that's okay. And I was thinking, I know wise words from someone so young. And I thought, do you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. And just let that go and move on, because otherwise you start having this really unhealthy relationship between yourself and everything else around you.
Yeah, exactly. So true.
Yeah. So what else have you been up to in your 40s? Have you any other dreams you've realised or?
Yeah. So there's a few things I think. I thought I sort of hit my 30s and was like, yeah, this is the decade where I know what I'm doing. And I got to into my 30s and went, I haven't got a bloody clue. But then I genuinely feel like I'm in my 40s and I kind of just don't. It's not that I don't care. That's probably the wrong phrase. It's just that I care less about what others think of me, and I will do what I need to do to make myself happy. And as long as it's not to the detriment of anyone else, then I'm more confident in doing that since I've hit my 40s. I'm quite proud of the fact that I'm 44. I'm like, yeah, I'm 44, because it is just a number, but also it's only as old as you feel. And the only thing that reminds me I'm 44 is when I look in the mirror and go, oh, who's that?
I don't think you look, I know we've talked today, but for listeners who can't see the video, you're just in audio, there is a really bright light emanating from Catherine today. She's been lit internally. So I don't think you look anywhere near 44. I think, if someone said to me you're, mid-30s, even early 30s, I'd go, absolutely, I wouldn't question it. So you look fabulous. You look fabulous, just putting that out.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take that any day. I'll take that any day. But yeah, I don't know, my 40s, what have I been doing in my 40s? We've been traveling a lot with the kids. They're now 8 and 10, so they're that bit older, they're a bit more independent. It's easier to go on holiday with them. It's easier to do nice things like go for coastal walks with them. And, we've just been figuring out what we love to do as a family, really, in my 40s. My husband's younger than me. He's only 40. He's just turned 40, thank God. So I was like, can you just hurry up, please, and be in the same decade as me? Because this is really stressing me out. But yeah, we just, we're at the point in time where my eldest is going to senior school next year. So we're navigating all of that malarkey in terms of finding the right school. And, we're just doing things that make us happy, to be honest with you. I've been in the process of building another sort of side business to the one that I run, which is like an online training platform for startups to learn to get their legals right. That's in the process of being built at the moment. And I've probably got about another month's worth of work before I can launch it. But yeah, just doing things that make me happy, to be honest with you. I think, it's...
What else is life for if not just doing things that make us happy? I mean, that's
have you heard that quote that Jimmy Carr said? And he said something about, he was asked about what the meaning of life was, and he said, enjoying the passage of time. And I was like, do you know what? I think that's true. Whatever that looks like for you, just learn to enjoy the passage of time, because it's going to pass anyway. I say this so often to people. You're just giving me chills, because it's what I say to people. Really?
Yeah, because I have people saying to me, oh, I don't want to do that because it will take 3 years, or I don't want to do that because it'll take 5 years. And I say, but time will go anyway. That 3 years will pass anyway. But at the end of that 3 years, you've either achieved whatever it is you want to do, or you haven't even attempted it. But time will go anyway. So it is about making the most of that time, however you want to do that, and enjoying it it. Absolutely. No.
If you never start, you'll never get there.
Exactly.
So why not just start now and see where you end up?
Yeah. But I love the fact you also said that this evolution of you. So in your 30s, you thought you I know who I am. I know Catherine Hyde, this is me. There isn't much more to know.
Yeah.
And then in the 40s, you're like, actually, I'm coming into my own again.
Yeah.
And that's certainly been my experience every decade. There's like this new, it's almost like going to like this cocoon and emerge again, it feels like that process. And I'm 47 and my wife's nearly 5 years younger than me. So I feel your pain, Catherine, about the age difference. And being the oldest person in my house, I'm certainly reminded of it on a daily basis.
Yeah, right.
But I'm obviously 47 now, 47 and a half, going to be 50. I'm so looking forward to it. To me, it's really exciting because I'm like, well, who will emerge next?
Yeah.
How will I, what changes are going to take place? What will I achieve? So for me, we can look in the mirror and go, oh gosh, I'm getting older. But aging isn't scary for me anymore. Like it was when I was younger. I was terrified of it, but now I kind of embrace it much more.
I also think that, if I think back to what my grandparents were like, and to a certain extent what my parents were like when they were in their mid-40s, just really, really different. Mid-40s was such a different decade back then to what it is now. It is just a number, and it is about a mindset, I think. And if you think you're old, you're old. But if you think yourself young, then you're just going to feel it. And it, like I said, it's only looking in the mirror and suddenly seeing this old woman staring back at me that I'm like, oh, I look like my mother. But that's only because I don't look at myself very often in the mirror. But yeah, I've loved being in my 40s. I can't say that it's been anything other than positive. Really.
Yeah. And I cheerlead it all the way to the point I'm speaking to some women when I put out the sort of started speaking about the concept of this podcast and invited people onto it and things. I had several women contact me and go, I'm only 39.
Please let me
I can't wait to be 40. And they were like, they were saying they couldn't wait. And actually I have invited one in this season and some others for the next season who aren't yet 40, because it's really interesting to hear their journey into that as well. Well, what part do you think society has played, sort of past and present, in this whole idea of aging and apologies for anyone who can hear my dog barking in the background. Hopefully we'll lose that in the edit. Because I remember when, as you say, when my mum was approaching 40, it was all a lot of whispered conversations. There's this whole thing about, it was a real dreaded time for people to be approaching 40. And then obviously it brings along with it menopause,
the joys of menopause.
Or as my mum and her friends and my aunts used to whisper in corners, the change. So how do you think society in the past has looked at aging of women, and has that changed? Has that shifted? What's been your experience?
I think it's changing. I don't think it's changed enough. I think there's still a huge amount of criticism around appearance in women and how, men look so handsome as they age and women just look so haggard. There was some photographs of Pamela Anderson kicking around. She was at a film festival, I think, in the last few days, and there has been so much trolling of her looking like an old lady and she looks terrible. And it's like, I think she's in her 60s, isn't she? Like, what are you expecting exactly from this woman? And actually, I think she looks beautiful. I think she looks incredibly elegant, given, of course, the sort of what she was known for in the past. I think there's a lot of work to be done, to be honest, in terms of women getting older. I think we're getting better at celebrating the contribution that women have to make, but I think there's a huge amount of work to be done still. And I'm very conscious of it, having two young girls, to make sure that they know that their contribution and their place is just as valid as anybody else's.
Exactly. And I think the media has a lot to play in that, doesn't it? I saw something online recently about Julia Roberts, and she was with her niece, who's also an actor. And people were making really, really cruel comments on Julia Roberts. So obviously her niece is, I don't know, 20 plus years younger than Julia Roberts. So of course she's fresh-faced and everything else. And Julia Roberts to me is still an absolutely stunningly beautiful woman. And they were trolling her saying, oh, look at this, look at that. Just unnecessary. And I know Davina McCall has a lot of similar criticism online because she's chosen to age. Naturally,
as she should.
But then on the other side of it, if women are older but don't look older, they also receive the same criticism, same backlash around if they have any medical intervention or if they naturally are aging particularly well. I'm thinking about Jennifer Aniston. So you can't win. Sometimes you can't win. You can't win. You either age gracefully and you are looked down on for that, or if you decide to take any medical procedures, then equally you're seen in a negative light. So, so I think there is a lot to be done. And as I say, there's a lot of responsibility, I suppose, on us as women to help negate that for the generations who...
Yeah, to lead the way. And don't get me wrong, there have been times where I've questioned posting a photograph or posting a video because I'm like, oh, do I look a bit old? Am I looking a bit, haggard today? I'm not going to post it. And then just sort of going, stop that. Your face is your face. And what you've got to say matters. Doesn't matter what's on the outside.
Yeah.
But, I've been drawn into that whole sort of like self-doubt of what I look like I'm going to be judged for. And I probably am, but so be it, right?
Well, I love your content on LinkedIn.
Thanks.
I always love it. And if you don't follow Catherine on LinkedIn, I highly recommend it. She posts lots of brilliant videos and content that's not just about law. It's
all a bit random.
It's much bigger than that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I highly recommend following Catherine on LinkedIn and any other social media channels as well. So we are drawing to a close, but just two more questions from me. One is about role models. So people who've been role models in your life, and they could be people close to you, or they could be people who are more sort of potentially celebrities, but who do you look to when you need guidance or inspiration yourself?
Yeah, so I think to a certain extent it depends what I'm doing. If it's to do with the business, it might potentially be one of my peers. It might be someone else that owns a small boutique law firm that I'm kind of looking to. I think I've always looked up to the sort of the older generation of actresses, I think. So, like Helen Mirren and Dame Judi Dench and, Miriam Margolyes to a certain extent, because she's just absolutely
she's fantastic, isn't she?
Mad as a box of frogs. But I just love the fact she does not give two hoots at all. And I really value that because I'm quite reserved. And of course, in the role that I am, I have to portray a certain type of person, and I'm probably quite different at home to the professional version of me. But yeah, I've always really looked up to sort of women who've never apologized for who they are. They just are unapologetically themselves. So I think it varies. There are some men that I really look up to that, there's I won't name him because I don't want to embarrass him, but there's a chap who runs his own law firm, has done for a long time, and is very humble, but extremely, extremely kind, a very astute businessman, has a lot of experience that I quite often will call on to kind of go, look, can you give me a little bit of a steer here? I'm not sure what to do, So I feel very fortunate actually that I'm surrounded by so many people that are just unapologetically them. I think that's the key for me. It's actually finding those people that I feel are themselves 100%. There's no falsity. There's no pretending to be what they're not. They are just genuine people who want to have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And whose values align or have values or behaviours that you really admire.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as I say, I think when we ask people about role models, it's easy to go, name, whoever's latest in the media or whatever, isn't it? But often I find some of the best role models are those that are around us and are actually quite accessible, aren't they?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. So thank you so much, Catherine. It's been absolutely fab having you on the podcast today. So thank you for sharing all your stories and all your experiences and your knowledge, and just amazing insight that you've had to share today. But before we wrap up, just going to ask you one last question. So what's the one piece of advice that you would give to anyone listening who is thinking it's too late for them and it's just too late for them to chase their dreams?
How do you know? How do you actually know that that's true? And who's actually asking you that question? Because you're probably only asking it yourself. So quieten that voice and just take the next best step. Brilliant. What a great way to end. Thank you so much, Catherine. It's been an absolute joy. Likewise. To all our listeners today, I hope today's conversation has reminded you that no matter where you are in life, it's never too late to follow your passion and achieve your goals. So until next time, keep believing in yourself, stay authentic, and goodbye.